Hi, I'm Trace Burroughs. My involvement in art started really early. Actually, at the age of 10, I wasn't intending to be an artist, but my parents used to go out at night a lot and I was left alone. And so just to entertain myself, I used to get the little dividers that are in shredded wheat boxes, the big shredded wheat. And I started just like, doing little Jackson Pollock splatter paintings on these little things. Anyhow, my dad, they come home and and they said, oh, look at that, it's like Jackson Pollock, So he started to do more of those, and he started framing them and organizing exhibits around Westport and other towns. And I ended up selling about 300 paintings between the ages of 10 and 15.
Wow.
So around that time, I got a little bored with it. I said, Jesus, how many spatter things can I end up doing? So my dad wasn't real happy with that, but because he was an artist, so he liked the idea of his son doing what he did. I got into music and drumming, and then I had a lot of mini careers, so many decades afterwards. I was a voiceover announcer on Nickelodeon. I wrote for kids television. Had some books published, a bunch of other things, and make your eyes glaze over. So anyhow, about 8 years ago, and meanwhile I was thinking about art a lot and thinking, actually, how can what would I do? And played with the ideas in my head for a long, long time. And so about 6 years ago, I started doing art again. Previously, back in the early 90s, I was a graphics consultant for the Sterling Health Company that makes a lot of healthcare products. And the first month I worked there, they put me in a room with another artist and gave us all the software. Photoshop had just come out and all the computer stuff. And they just said, stay here, I'll tell you when we got work for you. So I was in that room for a month, 8 hours a day, just playing with Photoshop and the computer and that kind of thing. So I got very, skilled with the Photoshop and the tools. So later on, when I got into art, I started working with Photoshop again. And I've gone through different genres since those 8 years. I did a pop art collection, sort of glamour pop art. I went back to the abstract expressionistic stuff and did a mid-century acrylics on canvas, a bunch of those, and a couple of other ones. And finally, also I did a poster one. This comes from that collection. I sold a piece at a show, and when I sell a piece, I go, oh, well, this is what I have to concentrate on, So someone wrote me a nice letter after they bought one of the pieces and said, this is what you should do. You should just do something like I just bought, So I got into it, and I did a whole series, sort of a poster kind of a look. And now, and they're both kind of surreal, but now I'm settled into a sort of a surreal look. I hope will stay with that and not switch to another genre in 2 years. The kind of feeling I like to get when I create art is I would like people to get sort of like a mystical feeling from it, or they don't have to be able to articulate what they see and this is what this means or anything, but just a feeling like it's sort of, interesting. I like to make it, attractive to the eye. But also they get a feeling like, oh, what does this mean? And get a mysterious feeling from it. Most of the time I don't accomplish that, but when I can do that, I'm very happy about it. And that is how I approach my art.
Thank you, Trace. That's great. Any questions?
How do you decide what images to include?
I look at thousands of images, and I look at ones that have nice, that just appeal to my eye. Different, can be all kinds of architectural, other kinds of things, just endlessly. And then I collect them and I put them in a folder. And then when I'm going to create art, I look at them and I go like, okay, I'll start with this. There's a lot of experimentation, so a lot of things don't work out. I might put it all together and say, this is, awesome, and then like 3 days later I'll go, no, that's garbage, So it's experimentation. I might go back, take out an image, put another one in, I just need something, go back to it until I feel, okay, I like it, I can stand by this in an art gallery, and feel good about it.
So with these subjects, is the are the historical references not so important? It's more the look?
Yes, it is, but I do. So I like religious icons and imagery, and incorporating that with a modern look and sort of the contrast of that, and then adding some like sort of modernistic graphic elements. So it is about the look, but to create the look, I do have my favorites. So I like Renaissance art, and I like religious. A lot of times I like religious images, and then I like very modernistic images. I try to combine them.
Could you explain the titles of both of these?
Okay, well I'll start with this one. I didn't plan on making, it's called Futurism, but I liked that piece, and then the religious, put it all together, and then I start, after I put it all together, I go, what's a good title for this? So Futurism, I don't know, it just gave me the feeling to name it that because of the images of that and the other parts of it. With this, basically, usually I put a lot of images in and to create the one look. With this, I had the religious images. There's two behind there, and then I had put this together, and I just combined them. And then when I did, I just thought, I don't know why I like that just the way it is, but I didn't feel like I needed to add more. So I didn't really have a concept for going into this. Just again, I looked at different images, put them together, and then I said, well, it needs something a little more modernistic or graphic element. That's why I put that in and that part of it there.
And Sentient?
Oh, the name. Just coming up with a title. Like, what should I name this? It just sounds a little mysterious.
What is it? Is it printed on paper and then mounted on something?
It's printed on aluminum.
Oh, right on the aluminum?
Aluminum, yeah.
You have a printer that can do that?
No, I send it out.
So do you paint it, put it on paper first to give it to them, or is this in a digital file, right?
It's a digital file.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you treat these as one of a kind, or do you do a series?
They're a series, so they're one out of 5
Okay.
prints.
So these are all digital,
Yes.
but you started painting.
Right, I started with like acrylics, and I actually started with little bottles of Tester model paint. Which throw it this big. So that's what I started when I was 10 years old.
Yeah. So do you incorporate? Are you still painting, or?
Yeah, I go back. I did the mid-century work, which is like big abstract expressionistic, a little different style than I did it when I was a kid. So that was just a couple of years ago. So I try to think of ways that I can go back to the different mediums.
The painterly portions of this piece, of Sentient, especially the landscape on the bottom, that was something that was found art, or did you create that?
That's found art.
What did your mother do? Was she an artist herself?
No, my mother was a clerk at the Remarkable Bookstore for about 35 years in Westport, and that's what she did. She liked to work with people.
Do you have any influences, would you say? Or is it very much?
I do have influences. Dali, so always was a fan of his, even as a kid. Liked his work. This is definitely influenced by Dali. And then a year ago, I went to Barcelona. I went to his house and the museum, and then I got really inspired, into it after I saw his museum, especially, which he's interred in the wall. He's buried in the museum behind.
In the wall?
Yeah, behind the wall. Actually, he was exhumed. He had a woman claim that she was his granddaughter and wanted part of his estate. And so she actually got him exhumed. They checked the DNA and discovered that she wasn't related to him.
Did they put him back?
They put him back, yeah, in the wall, yeah.
Well, that was terrific. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.